Hey, what is up everybody? It's Animac here for Anime Uproar, and what if I told you that there is a secret connection between some of the most important and most mysterious characters in all of One Piece, including Kuzan, Garp, Sengoku, Jaguar D, Saul, and even Shanks. This connection has been hinted at by Oda for a long time, and this could change everything in One Piece as the story reaches its epic climax. There are secret operatives within the world government system who are actively working to destroy it. Kuzan is a double agent, and Shanks and Garp might be working together, so let's get into it. You guys know the drill. If you enjoy our One Piece content and you want to see more, leave a quick like and comment right now. It only takes you a second, but it helps with that YouTube algorithm. And if you are one of the over 50% of people who watch our videos but haven't subscribed yet, make this the video that you subscribe and hit that notification bell to turn on all notifications. Subscribing is completely free, but it really helps me out a lot. Finally, this video will contain One Piece manga spoilers, so please proceed with caution. You have been warned. In the recent Egghead arc, we finally got some massive, long-awaited reveals about Vegapunk, the Void Century, Devil Fruits, and more. But one type of reveal that I found extremely interesting was the reveal that many important characters in One Piece actually know each other and have connections that we were never aware of until now. For example, we learned that Vegapunk and Monkey D. Dragon actually knew each other for decades. And Dragon even tried to recruit Vegapunk into the Revolutionary Army back when it was just getting started. We also learned that both of them were acquaintances of Professor Clover, and that they were infuriated by what the world government did to Ohara. And if that wasn't enough, we found out that Kuzan didn't actually kill Jaguar D. Saul. Kuzan made it look like Saul was frozen to death, but in reality, Kuzan spared Saul's life. And once the world government's forces left Ohara, Saul's body unfroze and he came back to life. However, he was definitely marked by fire in the process. Saul then managed to rescue many forbidden books that Ohara's scholars had sacrificed themselves to protect, and he brought them to Elbaf, the homeland of the giants. Later on, Dr. Vegapunk visited Elbaf and read all of these forbidden books, and he most likely met with Saul in person while he was there. So here we have some very interesting direct connections and face-to-face meetings between characters who have been very important in the world of One Piece, and who up to this point have only been on the periphery of the story, but who are now finally getting their spot in the limelight. And one of the most interesting of these characters is former Marine Admiral Aokiji, aka Kuzan, who, after leaving the Marines, apparently decided to join the ruthless and Machiavellian Blackbeard pirates. But hold on, would the man who we now know spared the lives of both Robin and Saul at great risk to himself, and the man who directly challenged Sakazuki in the name of his ideals, really decide to join Blackbeard and become a villain? Based on everything that we know about Kuzan so far, does he really strike you as the type of guy who would follow someone like Blackbeard? The answer is almost certainly no, especially in light of the recent reveals about Saul. In my opinion, it is far more likely that Kuzan is a double agent, and that he only joined the Blackbeard pirates in order to gather intelligence about them and possibly take them down from the inside. There are other theories, of course, like the theory that Kuzan and Blackbeard may actually be related by blood. But if it is true that Kuzan is a double agent, then who is he working for? What is he fighting for? Why is he risking his life to take down Blackbeard? There are some who believe that the entire showdown between Kuzan and Sakazuki was staged, and that Kuzan leaving the Marines was all part of the world government's plan to fool Blackbeard into accepting Kuzan into his crew. But I personally don't buy this theory. I think that Kuzan's disagreement with Sakazuki was absolutely genuine. It was a clash between two completely different worldviews and value systems. And the epic battle that they engaged in on Punk Hazard was certainly real. Kuzan hated Sakazuki's commitment to the harsh and brutal ideology of absolute justice, and he was especially outraged by Sakazuki's destruction of Ohara. So no, I don't think that Kuzan is still secretly loyal to Sakazuki, who is the current fleet admiral of the Marines. But if he is not loyal to the Marines per se, then who is Kuzan working for? Or perhaps I should say, working with? Where do his true allegiances lie, and what is his ultimate master plan? This brings me to a very interesting and very mysterious aspect of the One Piece story, The Marine Headquarters Secret Special Force, SWORD. SWORD was officially introduced in chapter 956, but the undercover captain of SWORD, Drake, was introduced all the way back in chapter 498. Back then, he was referred to as the Fallen Marine because he was a former Rear Admiral who defected from the Navy and established the Drake Pirates. He then became one of the Supernovas and allied himself to Kaido and became his subordinate. But as we learned in chapter 956, Drake's pirate life was a lie because he was an undercover Marine officer all along. In that chapter, we see Drake secretly communicating with Kobe, who is also revealed to be a member of SWORD. Drake shares valuable intel about what's happening in Wano, and from the brief conversation between the two, we learn two important things. First, Kobe is careful so that no one will hear his conversation with Drake, even though he is on board a Navy ship, which confirms that even the vast majority of the Marines don't seem to know that SWORD even exists. This makes sense, of course, since Drake's entire mission depends on everyone believing that he really defected from the Marines. But Kobe's extreme secrecy confirms this further. He and Drake even use a code word in order to confirm that the communication is secure on both sides. The second thing that we learn is that Kobe had no idea that members of CP0 were present on Wano. So that confirms that there is no coordination or meaningful communication between CP0 and SWORD. Since we know that CP0 is under the direct command of the Celestial Dragons, the lack of communication between them and SWORD pretty much confirms that SWORD is not under the command of the World Nobles. Remember this part because it will be extremely important later. In chapter 1032, we see that the CP0 agent who wears a bowler hat is actually aware of Drake's secret identity. Although Drake didn't necessarily know that CP0 knew this, which again suggests that SWORD keeps its mission secret even from CP0 itself. Or at least they tried to, although in this case they seem to have failed. This is all extremely interesting because even though they are both secret agencies that are technically on the same side, they are much closer to being rivals than allies. They don't share intel with each other. In fact, they try to keep their missions hidden from each other to the point that they may even end up in the same location and fighting against each other, as was the case on Wano. If CP0 and SWORD are rivals, and if CP0 is under the direct command of the World Nobles, the rulers of the world government, then who created SWORD and what is its true mission? Are SWORD and CP0 really on the same side, the side of the world government system of which the Marines are a part, or are they actually enemies who want completely different things? Let's look at the known members of SWORD. They include Captain Drake, Rear Admiral Prince Groose, Captain Kobe, Commander Hibari, Lieutenant Commander Helmeppo, and 4 other members who haven't been named yet. But that can't be all, can it? And I'm not talking about other minor and as of yet unnamed members. I'm talking about the leadership of SWORD. There is no way that this powerful top secret organization was established by Drake alone, a man who is clearly a field agent. He went out on a dangerous undercover mission for an extended period of time, so he clearly wasn't the one giving out orders from headquarters. This means that there has to be someone else who is behind the establishment of SWORD and who is in a position to actually command and coordinate the operations of the entire agency. In my opinion, the top candidates for being the true leader or leaders of SWORD include Kuzan, Fujitora, Garp, and Sengoku. Smoker is also a potential candidate, but he's definitely not my top choice. In one of his recent videos, Grand Line Review pointed out that Smoker doesn't seem to know much about Kuzan's movements. So it's likely that if Smoker is a member of SWORD, then Kuzan isn't, and vice versa. In fact, Grand Line believes that the leader of SWORD has to be either Kuzan or Fujitora, and there are multiple reasons for this. I will link that video down in the description because it makes some great points. Now, of course, we know that Fujitora dislikes the world government. He has openly disobeyed them before, and he even orchestrated the destruction of the warlord system, seemingly without clearance from up above. That said, Fujitora is believed to have joined the Marines only 2 years ago, and SWORD must have been around for longer than that. So what about Kuzan? Could he be a secret double agent and the shadow commander of SWORD? I mean, it's certainly possible, since we know that Kuzan has been an influential Marine for decades, we know that the Ohara incident upset him and changed him as a person, and we know that he is clearly willing to defy the will of the world government. He chose to spare the lives of both Robin and Saul at great risk to himself, and he even tried to challenge Sakazuki for the position of Fleet Admiral. In fact, we know that Kuzan was the more popular choice for Fleet Admiral among the rank-and-file Navy officers. So that again speaks to the immense influence that he has within the organization. We also know that Kuzan's original motto wasn't actually lazy justice. Initially, his motto was burning justice, which suggests the opposite of a lazy and laid-back attitude towards justice. However, over time, Kuzan's perspective changed, probably after he became disillusioned with the world government and its actions, especially in light of the Buster Call on Ohara. And so, as we are led to believe, after seeing that the world government and people like Sakazuki have a completely different understanding of justice from his own, Kuzan concluded that justice was relative, and he decided to take a laid-back and lazy approach to it. But this could all be just a facade that has been expertly perpetuated by Kuzan over the course of many years. What if Kuzan didn't really change his approach to justice? What if he decided to secretly pursue burning justice while putting up a lazy front in order to avoid unwanted attention from the world government? So while publicly Kuzan pretended to be laid back, secretly he established Sword and continued to pursue his true vision of burning justice through his special secret organization. Eventually, when Sword was already established and functioning on its own, Kuzan decided to go undercover and infiltrate the Blackbeard pirates. Why exactly he did this is still not known to us, but it could all be a part of his master plan. After all, the Blackbeard pirates just kidnapped our boy Kobe, who is a confirmed member of Sword. So we are likely about to see a face-to-face encounter between Kuzan and Kobe. This would be the perfect opportunity for Oda to reveal that Kuzan is secretly affiliated with Sword, and that he and Kobe are actually on the same side, so I'll be watching closely for that encounter. Personally, I do like this theory, because there is something clearly going on with Kuzan. He obviously has strong moral values, and he disapproves of blatantly unjust acts like the destruction of Ohara. He is also willing to openly defy the world government by sparing the lives of individuals like Robin and Saul, individuals who the world government wanted eliminated at all costs. And yet, after clearly showing himself to be a moral and principled guy, Kuzan just decides to join the most amoral crew in all of One Piece? That definitely doesn't make sense, unless this is all a part of some secret infiltration scheme. But although I think that Kuzan is definitely affiliated with Sword in some way, we can't say for sure that he himself is the leader or the only leader. That's because we still can't rule out other influential members of the old guard, such as Garp and Sengoku. In his video, Grand Line kind of dismisses the possibility that Garp or Sengoku could be the leaders behind Sword because they are old and practically retired at this point. I will have to disagree here because I think there is a lot more yet to be revealed about these guys. Their character arcs are not yet complete, and one or both of them could be behind Sword. First, let's talk about Sengoku, because he actually has a direct connection to the most important member of Sword that we know to date, Drake. We know that Sengoku took in Don Quixote Rocinante when he was still a child and raised him as his own son. Rocinante then rose to the rank of Marine Commander, and Sengoku tasked him with spying on the Don Quixote pirates, who were led by his older brother Doflamingo. But what a lot of people don't seem to know, and what we learned thanks to some Vivra card information, is that after he escaped from his pirate father, Drake was found by Sengoku himself and taken in by the Marines. Drake eventually rose to the rank of Rear Admiral before going undercover to spy on the Beast Pirates in a very similar way that Rocinante went to infiltrate the Don Quixote pirates. Now, multiple online sources, including the official One Piece wiki, state that Drake was taken in by Sengoku and raised as his son in exactly the same way that Rocinante was. While this is possible, it is not technically confirmed. I checked with Arthur from the Library of Ohara website and YouTube channel, and he explained that Sengoku found Drake, picked him up, and assigned him to Marine headquarters. But the alleged father-son relationship is not confirmed, not even on the viewer cards. I mean, it could be a father-son relationship, but we have to acknowledge that we don't have that official confirmation, even though some sources have claimed that we already do. Oh, and definitely check out Arthur's channel. He is incredibly knowledgeable about every little detail of One Piece, link in the description. So, considering the fact that there is clearly a direct connection between Sengoku and Drake, and considering that the two of them have known each other ever since Drake first joined the Marines, we certainly can't rule out that Sengoku may be affiliated with Sword. This becomes even more blatantly obvious if the two of them really did have a father-son relationship like Sengoku and Rocinante. And then Drake just happens to end up on an undercover pirate mission very similar to the one that Rocinante was assigned to by Sengoku himself. If that father-son relationship is ever confirmed, it will be almost impossible to imagine that Sengoku isn't the one behind Sword, or at least that he isn't one of its leaders. After all, Sengoku's dislike for the world government is well known. He nominated Kuzan to become Fleet Admiral over Sakazuki, and in general he has become more and more disillusioned with the ruling regime over the years, to the point that he decided to resign from the Marines altogether. And although Sengoku is a great candidate for being the leader or one of the leaders of Sword, I think that an even better candidate is none other than the hero of the Marines, Monkey D. Garp himself. Garp is of course part of the same generation as Sengoku, but his opposition to the world nobles is even more pronounced than Sengoku's. Garp flat out refused to be promoted to Admiral despite being offered the promotion multiple times because Admirals are under the direct command of the Celestial Dragons, and Garp absolutely refuses to operate under their command. What's more, Garp actually expressed embarrassment over the fact that he fought to protect the Celestial Dragons during the infamous God Valley incident. Protecting the world nobles should be seen as a top priority by every prominent member of the Navy. And yet Garp dislikes the world nobles so much that he doesn't want anyone to know that he protected them. Garp also tried to resign from the Marines along with Sengoku, but he was practically forced to stay on as someone who trains the next generation of Marines because his and Sengoku's resignations would have been really bad PR for the world government. And when we really think about it, Garp is someone with very close connections to people who willfully operate outside the law, including wanted criminals like Curly the Don. Oh, the leader of the Revolutionary Army just happens to be his son. Oh, and he secretly did a favor for the former Pirate King Gold D. Roger by protecting his son Ace from the world government. Yes, the same world government that Garp is apparently supposed to be serving. Then there's the fact that Kobe and Helmeppo were personally mentored by Garp and trained to become Marines under his supervision. Only a couple of short years later, both of them were confirmed to be members of Sword. Is that a coincidence? I sincerely doubt it. Garp is a character who still hasn't been fully fleshed out. His character arc is definitely not complete. And I'm almost certain that we will learn more about the God Valley incident before the story comes to an end. An incident in which Garp played a leading role. So, I believe that Garp is absolutely affiliated with Sword, and in fact, he's likely one of its leaders. The true beginnings of Sword may date all the way back to the God Valley incident, and once we finally get that flashback, everything will begin to fall into place. This brings me to another fascinating character that I think may be secretly affiliated with Sword, and that is red-haired Shanks. Now, of course, I don't think that Shanks is a member or leader of Sword, but I do think that he might be some kind of affiliate because there are some suspicious circumstances surrounding Shanks that need to be explored further. For one thing, we now know that Shanks was actually on God Valley as a baby, and that is where Roger found him and took him in as a member of his crew. Garp was also there at the same time and fighting alongside Roger, so it is quite possible that Garp has known Shanks since he was literally a toddler. Then there's the little matter of how exactly Shanks and the Red Hair Pirates discovered the top secret location of the Gomu Gomu no Mi 13 years ago. This devil fruit was being carefully guarded by CP9 and it was being secretly transported aboard a government ship. And yet the Red Hair Pirates found it, attacked the ship, and stole the devil fruit. This very devil fruit would later turn out to be the godly mythical zone devil fruit known as the Hito Hito no Mi model Nika. The same devil fruit that once belonged to the legendary Joy Boy himself. Wow, what a crazy coincidence. I wouldn't be surprised if Shanks and the red-haired pirates were actually tipped off about the top secret location of the Gomu Gomu no Mi because someone within the Marines, someone who is directly connected to Sword, may have contacted them. Soon after stealing the Gomu Gomu no Mi, Shanks and his crew arrived in Fuchsia Village and remained there for over a year. That is where they met young Luffy, who eventually ended up accidentally eating the Gomu Gomu no Mi. But isn't it kind of insane that Shanks, who was by then already a notorious pirate and someone who directly attacked the world government in the past, decided to spend over a year off and on in the hometown of Marine Vice Admiral Monkey D. Garp, just drinking and hanging out with Garp's own grandson? We have to remember that Fuchsia Village is not a big place. It's the kind of place where everyone knows each other and everyone talks to each other. As soon as someone like Shanks sailed into town, everyone would be talking about it, and even if they didn't know who he is exactly, they would be able to guess a lot by just looking at his ship and his crew. And yet, we are supposed to believe that Marine Vice Admiral Garp, the hero of the Marines, had no idea that the notorious pirate Shanks was using his hometown as a home base for over a year. We are supposed to believe that Garp didn't realize that his own grandson Luffy had befriended these pirates and was hanging out with them all the time. If Garp really didn't know this information, then that would make him not only a horrible grandfather, but also a horrible Marine officer. The idea that Garp wasn't collecting basic intel about what was going on inside his own hometown where his own grandson was seems absolutely laughable to me. And this makes me think that Garp actually knew a lot more than he let on. In the past, Garp has stated that he hates Shanks because he blames him for corrupting Luffy and setting him on the path to becoming a pirate. But his hatred for Shanks could be just a cover. After all, a young Ace just happened to be there near Fuchsia Village at the same time that Shanks was there, and Ace just happens to be the only son of Shanks' former captain, Goldie Roger. Oh yeah, and he just happens to have been secretly taken into the care of Garp in direct defiance of the world government's orders. There just seems to be too much coincidence here, and I believe that once we get the truth about God Valley and Garp's backstory, we will also learn a lot more about Shanks, about Kuzan, and about Sword. It's all connected, and it will all be revealed in the final saga of the story. So, with all of that said, what is Sword anyway? There are those who believe that Sword was created by Marines who hate the World Nobles as a secret organization whose purpose is to overthrow the World Nobles from the inside. But that doesn't seem to be the case, because it has been implied that CP0 is aware of Sword's existence. If Sword really was determined to literally overthrow the Celestial Dragons, we can assume that CP0 would have tried to eliminate everyone associated with Sword a long time ago. But even if Sword isn't actually some sort of revolutionary secret organization, it could still be used for revolutionary purposes. Even if Sword was created by people like Garp with a more humble purpose, like for example advancing the cause of true justice in the face of world government injustice and hypocrisy, Sword can easily grow into a revolutionary organization once the final war between the Straw Hat Grand Fleet and the world government erupts. Sword has important connections within the Navy. It has spies among the pirates, and it is likely affiliated with key figures like Garp, Kuzan, and Shanks, among others. As such, Sword could play a major role in the final battle, and members of Sword could make up the core of the new Navy command once the world government is overthrown and a new, freer world is created. I believe that this is exactly what Oda is planning to do with Sword. And I think that he has been planning all of this for a very long time. It's only a matter of time before the shocking truth is revealed. What do you guys think? Who is the real leader of Sword, and what is its secret purpose? Is Kuzan involved? Is Garp involved? Is Shanks involved? Let me know down below. If you're looking for another One Piece video to watch right now, check out my video on the secret former user of the Gomu Gomu no Mi who was already revealed in chapter 550 of the manga, link in the description. Don't forget to leave a like and comment if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more, and of course don't forget to subscribe, it's free and it really helps out a lot. You can also hit me up on Twitter and Instagram at AnimeUproar. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, see ya, Space Cowboys!